What up? Welcome on in to Inside Baylor Sports, the official daily podcast of Baylor Athletics. On today's show, we look back on the weekend that was for Baylor Athletics. We'll take a glance at Baylor's first-round matchups in March Madness, as Baylor is one of 22 schools dancing in both tournaments. Pretty exciting right there. We'll also hear from Baylor head men's basketball coach Scott Drew. All that and more coming up on the show. Don't forget, you can catch Inside Baylor Sports every weekday. You can also watch the video version for free over at BaylorPlus.com and on the Baylor Athletics YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, rate, and review the pod. Also, check out the Sikkim podcast. Great guest this week, Tweety Carter. Some of the podcasts that John Morris is doing. Great job by J-Mo, and looking forward to those as we continue on this spring. Also, follow Baylor Plus today on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. It's the official content network of Baylor Athletics. Think Netflix for your Baylor Bears. Download the app on your mobile device and sign up for your free 7-day trial today at BaylorPlus.com. It's Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. Justin Hoff alongside Corey Bolts, and Selection Sunday is over, Corey. And I got to say, I really like what the committee did for the Baylor Bears on both sides.
I would have to agree with you, Justin. I would have to agree 100%. It was hard for me as I was watching the shows in real time, because I'm one that needs to see the whole thing together to have a real good sense of what we're looking at. And I didn't get to look at it until last night after the women's selection show, but to see our paths for both of our teams, both men and women, feel good about it. I feel good about it. And it's not to mean that there's a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to be a tough tournament in both spaces, but there were some tougher paths that we don't have. And I'm grateful for that. I think that both teams are positioned well to make a run. And just looking forward to the next couple of weeks for basketball, but also to see what our Baylor Bears do for both programs, because they're seated well. And I know our women's team, I was just talking to one of their student athletes, they're excited about the path that they have, and haven't gotten a chance to talk with our men's student athletes yet, but I'm excited about the path that they have. So I think that it'll be a good one for sure. And we'll see what they do with it.
Yeah, I'm glad the women are not in the Iowa bracket. That one looks like a gauntlet. And
that's the rough one.
Yeah, that was really difficult. All the teams there, 1 through 5, the seeds. And then on the men's side, the UConn bracket looked really difficult. 3 of the Final Four teams last year are in that one. Iowa State, of course, in there. Illinois. I mean, it's a really difficult bracket. But on Sunday night, we caught up with Scott Drew after Selection Sunday. We begin by asking Coach Drew about what it was like to hear his team's name called.
It's always a great feeling. I can remember when I was at Valpo, we were an automatic qualifier, so you knew you were in the field. And sometimes you'd go through brackets and you get to the last bracket. You're like, do you think they forgot that we automatically qualified? Like, our name has got to be up there. So no matter if you think you're in or not, you always want to see your name called. You always want to hear it. And O can tell you each and every time, it's such a blessing. It's so hard to get in the NCAA tournament. You think about it, 363 schools, only 68 get in. That's not a high percentage. So such a blessing. God's given us a great platform and opportunity, and excited. Charlie, our strength coach, knows from Memphis. So he already has a couple good rib places picked out for us. So we're fine.
Yeah. All you wanted is a chance, right, Coach? So question for you. Obviously, playing the Big 12 gauntlet, tough gauntlet, aren't you excited to see a non-Big 12 team for our first time in like 22 games?
Well, from the Big 12 grind, I mean, we call out a set and they're calling it out before we even, you need to be over here to run this. So it is so nice to play someone else that doesn't know all your tendencies. The game just opens up. It's easier. And now it's harder defensively because same thing, you don't know as much, but it seems like it's a breath of fresh air, just not being so familiar with someone.
Yeah, you can run sets from like earlier in the year too, not necessarily.
Yeah. Get into the bag.
Coach, when you think about your team in March, what's the biggest key or keys to success for your team in this tournament?
Well, I think this year, more than any year, you can take whatever seed you are, 3, 11, 12, whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't know what the final number was, but I think the last I heard, it was like 18 of the number 1 seeds did not win or even make it to the championship game or something. It was crazy. So, I mean, there is more parity than ever. It's survive and advance mode. Everything is poured into that game. And then each and every game, we know you're not going to always make shots. So you got to always control what you can control. And I know with us, it's simple. I mean, take care of the basketball, get shots up. And if they're good shots, hopefully you're in position offensive rebound when you miss.
Yeah, so Coach, you have 3 guys starting who've never heard of tournament action. You got Ray J, Eve, and Jacoby. What's it going to be like, obviously, as being in the tournament so long, what's it going to be like for them to lean on your experience and getting them ready to play in the big dance?
Well, unfortunately, I'd rather have their experience than my experience because they're the ones playing. But the good thing is they have all played so many minutes. And if the freshmen are no longer freshmen, they're sophomores. So that's a help. And I mean, Ray J's been around the block. He's played in a lot of basketball games. But if you're not nervous, then there's something not right with you because it's the NCAA tournament and everybody. I mean, if you dream of playing college basketball, you dream of being in March.
Coach, I know the coaching staff, the GAs, everybody's going to hit the film and get all these teams. What's the next couple days look like for your team as you prepare for Colgate?
Tweety Carter, is one of the newer coaches on our staff, and he's like, "So what do we do tonight?" "Oh, you're going to have a lot of film to watch." So, I mean, right away, you got every game you can download from the year, and we divide it up so every coach has a different scout, so they can really hone in on an opponent, and then everyone obviously watches who you're playing first, because you don't take care of business, there is no second.
Coach, how valuable has John's leadership been this season? I mean, me and him have been great friends. So the fact that he's been getting so vocal and like having him in the back line, how's he been for you guys as a team?
Yeah. Great question. Thanks for asking that. And you can attest to this. At the end of the day, coaches have an impact on teams, but player-led teams are always the best teams. And everybody on the team has such respect for John. And the great thing about John is he leads by example in practice. He's so vocal. He's always given 100%. He's always locked in. And then when he talks, because of that respect everybody has for him, they really listen. And again, you want your upperclassmen, you want your leaders doing most of the talking.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate your time. Good luck this week. And I'm hoping the coffee maker is good to go these next couple nights.
Oh, it'll be fired up. Don't worry. And we'll see y'all in Memphis.
Looking at this this game, really this week, Corey, we talked on yesterday's show, Jerry and I, about experience and how the women have a lot of experience. Speaking of Jana Van Geitenbeek, 13 games played in the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's almost half a season. But I'll say this much with Jana. You think about our team peaking and playing some of its best basketball at the end of the season. 6 of our last 7 games we won. And a lot of this, I think, has to do with Jana Van Geitenbeek. You think about not only her, being a point guard, manning the offense, but I really felt like when she makes shots and makes her threes, this team is borderline elite.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. I think back to the beginning of the season, Justin, when you had you, me, and Caitlin picking our people. The 3 of us didn't necessarily have Jana as one of the people that we thought would be the person to watch out for. However, JVG, as I like to call her, like, she has been phenomenal towards the end of regular season into postseason. And you're right, she has really been a spark plug, if you will, for the team. And it can't be understated, the impact that she's had. And like you mentioned, when stuff is going right for her, so in addition to managing the court, when stuff is going right for her, it's going right for the whole team. The team really responds, and it'll be interesting to see how we see the coaching staff lean into her and continue to lean into her, but also how we see her lean on the experiences that she's had postseason, because it's different, right? It's different to to play in a space where every game literally matters because it's win or go home. And there's a different level of pressure that comes with that. There's a different level of intensity that comes with that. And if you haven't played in the postseason before, it takes a little bit of adjustment. And you see some of these early on games where teams that haven't had as many people playing postseason, or if it's a team's first time playing in the tournament, like the first for women, first quarter, first half of a quarter, it's a little rusty sometimes. And that's just because it's different. And hopefully our team, given the experiences they've had, don't fall victim to some of those early game jitters and they're able to just come out and play well. Now they're not going to know who they're playing until shortly before they play. So that'll be an interesting test. But I do think experience could play a very beneficial factor for the team. And hopefully it bodes well for Jana, given the impact that she's had on the team these last couple of games.
Well, Corey, I love that you brought that up. We don't know the opponent just yet, and that's very unique because they're in the play-in game, the first four, Columbia or Vanderbilt. And so those two teams, the 12 seeds, they'll square off in Blacksburg on Wednesday night. So tomorrow night, 8 o'clock on ESPNU. And so for the women, they'll watch, and the winner of that game plays Baylor on Friday at 5 o'clock. On ESPNU from Blacksburg, Virginia. Blacksburg, great spot, by the way, in the ACC. Love some of the hills and things like that, so it should be a good trip. And 2 wins out of there would be really good. But how about this one? The fact that I kind of like this. So, these first couple days of the tournament, they can be a little crazy, okay? But the fact that we're playing on Fridays, both teams, thankfully not playing at the same time. The men play at 11:40 on True TV, and then 5 o'clock on ESPNU for the women. But we get to see some craziness on Thursday, kind of get that out of our system a little bit, around the country. And then in week come, I will say, though, I'm never, thrilled when we play that early game, before noon Central Time. Some strange things happen. So the men got to get off, and play well.
Why aren't you thrilled about that? What's the issue with playing before noon?
I just, I don't know, some weird vibes and some of the feeling on those games. And some of the guys aren't awake sometimes, and by the time you wake up, it's halftime.
Right.
Thinking back to when you played basketball, you need the oranges from your parents. Halftime you wake up and it's like, shoot, we're down 10 points, and you try to come back. But I don't know. But hey, both games on Friday. Yep. I'll say this much: Friday, I don't know if I'm gonna get a lot of work done.
It's gonna be challenging. You probably shouldn't say it over the air, but that's the reality, though. This week, we've already started working on our brackets and our unit and all of that. And I just expect for my team, myself included, to be very distracted towards the end of this week for sure.
Well, I got a great boss, Giovanna Overshone, and she knows, I'll make up the time. So if I'm not working during the day, I'll get something done later. But yeah, it's gonna be hard to focus from about 11:40 to 1:40 Central Time and about 5 to 7 on Friday, and then hopefully 2 games on Sunday, right? The weekend. And yeah, it's just this time of the year. I don't know. It's just something about it. I mean, this is just super special. And I love this first weekend because all the upsets, the Cinderellas, don't want upsets on our side, but all the other teams, all the chaos somewhere else in the bracket. This first weekend, literally, it's my favorite weekend I would have to say of the whole year.
Whole year?
Whole year. Better than Christmas.
That. Better than Christmas.
Yep.
I love that, though. But to that point, it makes for such good conversation and banter with people across the country, really, because this is the week where second week sometimes, but this first week is the week where it's like, who knows what's going to happen? It's just the wild, wild west out here, and you have your best laid predictions, and maybe they're not your best laid predictions, but you have predictions, and gosh, people just surprise you. People just surprise you, and that's why I don't know that I could make it my favorite week of the year. I don't know what my favorite would be, but I love this time of the year for sure.
Yeah, and I'll do 2 things. It's a great time. It also can be a little bit of a sad time. So one, obviously Baylor playing really well. I'll be happy. Okay, that's one part. The second part, just for bragging rights, we do the brackets, right? Both of us official members of the athletic department, just for bragging rights. But if my bracket's doing really bad, And this is usually where you find out, right? It's almost like before the season, everybody's 0-0. So you're feeling great. Like, man, I got the bracket. I got this right. And then about a day into it, you're like,
throw it all away. What's happened?
Let's go to next year. I need a mulligan.
It's so true, though. It's so true. And gosh, when you said this could also be a sad time, I thought you were going to take that a completely different direction and go with the people that didn't make the tournament. Because I was looking at some different newsletters and D1 Ticker and all of that, and there was a soundbite from one of the members of the men's basketball committee, and he was talking about how hard it was making the selections for this year and how there are some teams that were on the bubble that didn't get in that are really, really good teams. And just, man, how sad that is for those programs. And we're blessed here to have both of our programs in it. And you said, 22 other schools, I think was the stat you said, Justin, of people that are similar to us with both men's and women's teams dancing. But man, how challenging and tough and sad it would be to have played a good season and to play really well and just not make it. So I thought that's the direction you were going in. But both instances are sad nonetheless. Bracket busted or you didn't quite make the cut. But that's part of it.
Now, you also can go on ESPN.com, Corey, and make like 25 brackets. Now, I don't know who has the time to do that, but if you did make 25 brackets, you got to have one that's doing well, right, after the weekend?
You would think, but who knows what we're going to experience? And that's just the energy of it, right? Like, you don't know what you're going to experience. I can tell you right now, I'm not making 25 brackets. I'm going to make one. And we're going to see what happens. I might make two and have my daughter do one to see if she does better than I do. But no, I don't want to make a lot of them because then I'll be more frustrated because it'll be just my luck that all 4 or 5 or 25 of mine are not successful.
Yeah, and I don't even know. I can't give you any advice. I'd say on the men's side, you got to take a 12 over a 5. I think on the women's side, I think the Sweet 16 area is going to bring a lot of parity. And so I think, you kind of get through that first weekend. A lot of the host site schools in most brackets, hopefully not in Blacksburg, but a lot of the host site schools will win. And, I think that second weekend is where women's basketball, the parity is at an all-time high, and you could see some craziness going on there. But the men's side, you usually see a lot of craziness because they're playing on neutral floors. And so, we don't want to see any of that craziness on Friday. Of course, the Baylor men, they're taking on Colgate out of the Patriot League. And the women will be facing either Vanderbilt or Columbia. I mean, you're talking about maybe going up against the Ivy League and the Patriot League. I know they take their academics real serious, as do us here at Baylor. But thankfully, we'll be playing this game on the hardwood and not in the classroom.
That's an interesting thought because I hadn't considered it in that way, Justin. But that's an interesting thought. But here's the thing: our student athletes. I mean, let's not be too bashful here because they get it done in the classroom too. So I feel good about them competing on the hardwood and in the classroom because they're not ones to be played with. We've led the Big 12 for consecutive years in the GSR and got good GPAs. So, I mean, let's not count them out. That's all I'm saying.
I set you up for that. I knew you would respond the same way.
You knew I was ready.
Hey, let's beat them on the hardwood and then some extra credit afterwards.
There it is.
Right.
You're speaking my language.
All right. And then a quick look around Baylor athletics over the weekend. Women's tennis, a nice win on Friday against Kansas State. Baseball, we talked about it. They won 2 out of 3 against Texas Tech. 2 big wins on Sunday. Softball, unfortunately, was swept by Kansas and Lawrence. We've talked, obviously, through men's basketball. Women's golf, they're out in Florida State. Out in Tallahassee at a 4th-place finish of 14 teams. Men's tennis, they fell to number 4 Wake Forest by a score of 5-2. Acrobatics and tumbling, a nice win over number 4 Gannon on Saturday for their senior day. Oklahoma State, the Baylor women on the tennis courts took on Oklahoma State. Number 1 Oklahoma State, they won 7-6. 0 in men's golf, currently in the All-American Intercollegiate in Houston, Texas. Just all kinds of things going on. We got softball later on tonight, 6 o'clock here at Getterman Stadium against Houston Christian. And Sam Houston, Baylor baseball, heading on the road to Huntsville to take on Sam Houston. So a lot going on. I know a lot of focus is clearly on March Madness and those kinds of things. And it's just that time of the year, right? It's March. We do want to see madness, but we don't want to see any madness in our brackets with us.
Correct. We need all the madness to happen in any of the games that Baylor's not playing in, unless Baylor was seated lower and we're playing somebody higher, and then we can be the upset. That's all I'm saying. Like let us create some madness, but we do not want to be on the receiving end of any of that. We want to see our teams be successful. And outside of the brackets, I mean, you just mentioned it, Justin, so many other sports competing. So there's lots happening for the Baylor Bears for sure. And our hope and desire is that we continue to see some wins and pull off some upsets if needed, whether it's on the basketball courts or in some of our other sports.
Corey, I will give some advice as we're finishing out the show here. Mm-hmm. Do not take all chalk. Okay, Corey, you've got to pick some upsets. There will be some. I don't want you to take, 1 seed, 5 seed Baylor on the women's side, 1 seed, 3 seed Baylor, 1 seed on the men's side. You got to mix it up a little bit.
I will do that, and I always do that when I make my brackets. And you called out the certain upsets and all that. I will have upsets in there. They just won't be when Baylor's on the line. It will not be Baylor being upset by anybody. But I'll have a couple. And hopefully I pick them right. We'll see. We'll see what happens there.
Well, we got to compare brackets and take a look. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna have some of that over the next couple of weeks. It'll be a lot of fun. That'll do it for today's edition of Inside Baylor Sports, a Sport and Story production. Thanks for listening. For Corey Bolts, I'm Justin Hoff. Have a great Tuesday, and sick 'em Bears.